Well, hello, hello. It has been quite some time since I've done a live stream, and I thought it was time now that I have a brand new office that I can actually do live streams at normal times, like in the evening, instead of just when my kids are napping. So, hello, everybody. Today we are going to be doing a lipotoxicity live stream. I have released 4 videos on the topic over the past few months. More videos have been released recently. My very first video was of my husband, Goran's story, how he just could not lose weight on carnivore. Carnivore on its own was not enough. So we ran an 8-month experiment on him, and I talked about that experiment at the Collaborative Science Conference in Vegas in February of this year. And afterwards, we talked about how we were able to get him from 270 pounds down to, I think, 217 was where we ended up 8 months later through extremely long water fasts and exercise. And we were able to get him down that low. After I spoke, Dr. Nadir Ali came up to me and said, I think your husband was suffering from lipotoxicity. Now, I had heard of lipotoxicity before. I love Dr. Nadir Ali's content. He hasn't produced as much content recently, but I've watched a lot of his content in the past, but I hadn't connected the two, my husband's story and the lipotoxicity piece. So after that, I said, I'd love to have you on the podcast. So about a month and a half later, I had him on the podcast, and I did a deep dive into lipotoxicity, what it is, how you get it, how you can tell that you have it, because there's very specific biomarkers that you have to test. It's not just that you're not losing weight on carnivore, or not even just carnivore, on any diet. It's not just that you're not losing weight. It's just a lot of people that come to carnivore, it's kind of like when they realize they have this issue, because they're like, why am I not losing weight? I'm not eating any carbs. Well, there's something else going on in some cases. So there's certain biomarkers to test. And then just 3 steps on how to fix it. So that is kind of where we ended up after that interview. And then I posted that. A few weeks later, Craig Emmerich got a hold of me, and we started chatting about lipotoxicity, because he and Maria see this in their practice often. So then I had him on the podcast, and we dove into the topic a little bit more. So then I had 3 videos on lipotoxicity on my channel, and I was like, you know what? I really want to boil this down to the easiest, simplest breakdown that I can, so that people don't have to go through Dr. Nadir Ali's entire interview. It's like an hour long. Craig's interview was an hour long. And then my initial video that I made about Goran's journey, the experiment we ran on him, was about 20 minutes long. So that's 2.5 hours of content. I don't want you to have to wade through all of that. So recently I did a video where I discussed everything that we just talked about: lipotoxicity, what it is, how you know you have it, how you get it, how to fix it, and how to monitor your progress. So basically today, I just wanted to answer any questions that you have. I know I had a lot of people commenting on those videos. So if you have any questions about lipotoxicity, please leave them in the comment section, and I will get to them. You can also ask any kind of question you want about anything carnivore related. If you have a burning question, please leave them in the comment section. And also let me know if you can hear me, and let me know where you're watching from, so that I will know who is here with me today. I want to do a couple of housekeeping things and allow you guys to kind of get your questions in, and then we'll just go through a primer of lipotoxicity and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll answer your questions as they come up. Okay, great. I wanted to mention that my book, Complete Carnivore, is now available for pre-order. So this book comes out on November 4th. And let me tell you, I'm going through it right now because they just laid everything out on the page so we can make sure it looks right and go through final edits. I was like, wow, this is actually pretty good. I finished writing it in December. So I was kind of like done with it for a few months, and going through the editing process, and now seeing everything laid out with the graphics and the photos and everything. I'm like, I took those photos. I wrote this. Wow. So it's really good. I'm really, really excited about it. I actually have a giveaway going on right now for anybody that pre-orders it from right now until Saturday night, August 23rd at 11:59 p.m. If you order it right now and then send me a copy of the order receipt with the order number on it to completecarnivore@gmail.com, you will be entered into a drawing to win 4 full-sized boxes of Element electrolytes. I've got it ready to go, packaged up. Just got to send it out to the lucky winner. And don't worry if you've already pre-ordered the book, because I'm going to have a giveaway for every single person that has pre-ordered the book in the next month or two. So don't worry, you will get something really cool. Actually, I'm working on it right now. But yeah, that's that. Let's put it up one more time. Boom, Complete Carnivore, achieving better health through a meat-based diet. So it is an in-depth guide to the carnivore diet along with 80 recipes. This book, it's huge. It's like I see it as the encyclopedia of carnivore, kind of like how Dr. Sean Baker's book, The Carnivore Diet, was like the first real tome. I see this as the next step in the carnivore evolution. There's one chapter I'm really happy about called Troubleshooting, where I have taken everything from you guys, all your comments, everything that I've learned over the past few years, and just common issues that people run into in the beginning of carnivore, and give you actionable steps that you can take if you run into certain situations. So like lipotoxicity we're talking about. I have an entire section in the troubleshooting part of that book, that chapter, where we go through my husband's entire journey and exactly what we did, his exact biomarkers, what to test and all that kind of stuff. So weight loss stalls, a lot of people running into issues with stomach-related stuff, diarrhea, common things in the beginning of carnivore. That chapter deals with all that. So anyways, last time I'm going to talk about it. Boom, there you go. And pre-order links might be in the description of this live stream. I'm telling you, it's been such a long time since I've done it that I'm like, all right. So we got some people watching and hanging out. Jeanette is watching from Wisconsin. Great question. Also, did your husband count calories as well? So here is the thing. We didn't know that he had lipotoxicity until we talked to Dr. Nadir Ali. So we were already 8 months in, almost 9 months. So no, he never counted calories, still doesn't. The key for him after we figured that out is we just had him eat a little bit leaner. He was already not adding butter or things to his food, but we've never counted calories with him. But I was the one that was providing the food, so he had it was no carbs. He was having issues with no carbohydrates, and I wouldn't say that he was eating excessively either. It was really a conundrum. Cindy is watching from Georgia. Hello, Cindy. Wendy from London. Hello. Kelly, I'm so excited for your book to come out. Thank you so much. I'm excited for it to come out too. Oh, let me tell you guys, I'm actually going to be doing a book signing at Hack Your Health this year. Hack Your Health is in Tampa. It's November 14th to the 16th. And you can still get tickets. I think ticket prices go up again on September 1st, but if you use my name, Jenny Middich, with no space in between them, you can get $100 off your ticket. It's going to be an amazing weekend. I'm doing my book signing and a cooking demo, one of the recipes from the book, on the first day, I think, Friday. Are there samples view for the book? Do you mean what do you mean for samples? Like pages from the book or things like that? If you go to the Amazon listing, you can kind of see what's going on there. But for right now, we're still working on layout. So I think once that's all done, you'll be able to see the first 10 pages or something like that. I don't really know how it works on Amazon. I'm working with a publisher, so they kind of are in charge of all of that. Okay. Leah is watching from Pensacola. Freebound from Texas. Ellie, hey girl. Oh, I'm so glad you're going to be at Hack Your Health. Awesome. That's good. We'll finally get to meet in person because we didn't meet last year at Hack Your Health, I don't think. Awesome. That's going to be so good to see you there. All right. So I do see some questions. I'm going to get through these questions right now, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what lipotoxicity is and how you become lipotoxic. So Kathy says, what can satiate more without more healthy fat without increasing carbs? Only protein. Yeah. So we'll talk about, the nutrition aspect of it. You still eat fatty meat, but you're not adding like extra butter to stuff. You're not using heavy cream. You're not making like bulletproof coffees and things like that. You can still, like if you eat a ribeye, you would eat the fat that's on the ribeye. That's the key. And then you can also just try replacing like one meal per day with a leaner cut of meat. But yeah, if you're not increasing carbs, you would want to increase the protein. Because you don't want to starve, right? But protein is highly satiating. And this is a temporary intervention. You do not have to do this forever, but if you have a lot of fat on your body, you want to tap into that fat. And so that's kind of why you would want to lower the dietary fat a little bit. All right, Megan, do you think some people genetically just aren't great at burning fat? I have always lost weight on low fat, but trying to do high fat carnivore has done nothing for me. Maybe. I think that there are genetic differences. I think based on like your ancient heritage, what part of the world you came from may determine how well you are at burning fat and or protein or carbs. Like my people are from like Scotland, kind of Northern Europe area. And I think like colder. So I think genetically, if we're talking about that, I would have been able to handle, or my people would have been able to handle a lot more meat and animal products because there wouldn't have been as much carbohydrate around, seasonally. I think they probably would have eaten it seasonally. I think if you lived in the tropics and you had access to a lot more food variety, perhaps you would be able to deal with that better. But yeah, I think there is some genetic composition to it. If you are doing high fat carnivore and not losing weight or not feeling better, cut down the fat. You're never going to be low fat on carnivore. I think the lowest I've ever gotten my macros to was like 50% fat to 50% protein. That's still pretty high fat. If you have fat on your body, you want to be able to tap into it. And I think just play around with it. Don't do a drastic drop. Just, drop 25, 30, 40 grams of fat for a week or two and see how you feel, Let's see here. Any other questions before I move into Cindy? Hoping to go carnivore after my stomach heals from gastric sleeve. Surgery date not certain at the moment. Yeah, I have a couple of videos on bariatric surgery, carnivore and bariatric surgery on my channel. One is an interview with Adrian Gledhill, and the other is kind of a tips video. So check those out. And Lori, hello from Bellingham, Washington State. Blessings to you. Thank you so much. All right, so let's dive into what is lipotoxicity. Lipotoxicity is when your fat cells are overstuffed, and they cannot store any more fat. So this typically happens, it's like you've met your personal fat threshold. And let me tell you, I'm getting all of this information from Dr. Nadir Ali. He's kind of the main cardiologist doctor in this space that is seeing this in his clinical practice. He's kind of the one that coined the term, or at least made it popular. So if you haven't seen any of his videos, go over to his channel. Just look up Dr. Nadir Ali and you can get all this information. I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional. I just read a lot and interview people that are. So I'm just distilling this information for you, just so you know. So lipotoxicity, you've met your personal fat threshold. Your fat cells are overstuffed and cannot accept any more fat. So then what happens? Well, that fat has to go somewhere. When you see fat in the bloodstream, that's triglycerides, and you want your triglycerides to be under 100. If you look at reference ranges, it's like 150 or less, but we really want it to be under 100. You don't want a lot of triglyceride in your bloodstream. So this is why when you see a lipid panel, you see triglycerides are like 200, 300, 400. That person could possibly be lipotoxic. So there are genetic components to your personal fat threshold. Dr. Nadir Ali talks about how Caucasians tend to have a higher personal fat threshold than, say, an Indian population. So what this means is different ethnicities can eat the exact same food, but they could see their personal fat threshold met sooner. And then for them, they get sick faster. So type 2 diabetes, metabolic unwellness, basically. And that's kind of why you can see that at varying rates. So how do you become lipotoxic? I think most people are becoming lipotoxic by eating a standard American diet for decades and decades and decades, okay? You eat all of this sugary, ultra-processed, bad food, and eventually your fat cells become overstuffed. I feel like a lot of people that are eating a standard American diet and do a blood work panel and they see like, elevated triglycerides, HDL is low, they've got a high A1C, their blood sugar is really high. If they did a fasting insulin, they'd see their fasting insulin being very high. These are all markers of lipotoxicity. But I think when you come to a low carb diet like keto or carnivore, you're thinking, man, I'm going to lose all this weight. It's going to be great. All of my markers are going to improve. Super excited. So you start to follow the carnivore diet the way that it's, preached by a lot of people, a lot of the influencers and doctors here on YouTube. And I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not a one size fits all, as we'll talk about in a little bit. And you start gaining weight maybe, or you get blood work done at month, you got your baseline blood work, and then, 3 months in, you get your blood work and your triglycerides haven't moved or they've gone up. Your A1C is getting worse. You haven't seen any improvements in your fasting glucose, and you still have a sky high fasting insulin. What is going on? I think this is when a lot of people, at least in the carnivore space, start to realize like, oh, what am I doing? I'm doing everything. What am I doing wrong is what I should say. I'm doing everything that these people are saying I should do, and I am not having the same results as other people. And I think this is when a lot of people recognize that they have lipotoxicity, but they don't know what it is yet. We sure didn't. Originally, when we saw my husband's blood pressure going up and his triglycerides going up and his glucose, his insulin was still like, it was like a 23 and it had gone down to, I don't know, maybe a 17. It still wasn't good. And we were just like, what in the hell is going on? We are doing everything. So we tried adding more fat. We tried doing all of these different things, and his health just kept getting worse. So we were like, we have to figure this out. We have to figure this out. It was insane. So at that point, there's the biomarkers you have to test. If you're just not losing weight on carnivore, it could be many things. So it's not just the not losing weight. The biomarkers that you want to check, I'm going to link that video where I boil this all down for you in the description of this live after we're done with it. But you're looking at triglycerides, if they are over 100. You're looking at HDL, which would be under a 50. That's both on a lipid panel. Then if you take a look at your glucose, I say above 95, but above 100 fasting, 12 to 14 hours fasting. If you have a fasting insulin in the double digits, so 10 or up. Let's see, A1C, an A1C above a 6, but that's not really one you need to. The glucose in the fasting insulin is going to tell you enough. If you're HOMA-IR, that is a calculation using your fasting glucose and your fasting insulin. If that's above a 1.3, the triglyceride to HDL ratio, if that is above a 2. And then there's one more test that you can do. It's called Adiponectin. I have seen wildly different prices on all of the online blood work websites. For Adiponectin. I think Own Your Labs was like 400. I think Ulta Lab Tests was like 200. And I think Walk-In Lab was like 83. Adiponectin is high when your fat cells are healthy and they are not overstuffed. So adiponectin declines when you have overstuffed fat cells. So for basically, if it's in like the single digits or the low teens, that is an indicator. Now, females and males will have slightly different adiponectin numbers just because females have more fat cells because we have to have babies and, not starve to death during famine. So we have a little extra fat on our bodies. That's actually protective too. Our personal fat thresholds, female personal fat thresholds are higher than males. just because of that. So that's kind of another reason why we're protected from some lipotoxicity and some heart cardiovascular stuff. And then there's one more thing you can check, and that's a visceral fat reading. So visceral fat reading through a DEXA or an MRI. So we do DEXAs, and that was another clue for us that my husband had something going on, because at Hack Your Health last year, so that was in, I think, June 1st in Austin, Texas, we did a DEXA down there, and he had like 9 pounds of visceral fat. 9 pounds. Now, visceral fat is the fat that is inside the trunk of your body around your organs, and you do not want very much of it. So when your fat cells are overstuffed, when you are lipotoxic, that fat that's in your blood still has to go somewhere. Those triglycerides have to go somewhere. So your body, instead of putting it into your fat cells where it belongs, starts to deposit it on your pancreas, your liver, in the trunk of your body. That's where that visceral fat is coming from. If you have a large amount of visceral fat, it's a really good indicator that you could perhaps have lipotoxicity. I do not recommend getting a visceral fat reading from a body scale, like a Hume or an in-body like you would do at the gym. Those can be okay for like total fat mass and perhaps sometimes lean mass, but I have found those to be wildly inaccurate, and they are 100% wildly inaccurate for visceral fat. You cannot read visceral fat from one of those. So don't get down on yourself if one of those scales is like, oh, you gained visceral fat, blah. There's no way they can tell. You have to go get a DEXA or an MRI. Now, an MRI is much more expensive and not as easily accessible. So a DEXA is going to be the option for most people. I will put a link to where you can find one in the description when we're done with this. You just put in your zip code and it will tell you where. Also, there's international ones too. So if you put in your country, you'll be able to find some. So that is everything to know about biomarkers to test. First clue, if you're not losing weight or if you're gaining it on carnivore. Second clue, blood work, triglycerides and HDL on a lipid panel. Triglycerides above 100, HDL below a 50. And then you do the triglyceride to HDL ratio, which is triglycerides divided by HDL, if that's above a 2. Then you look at your glucose. Is it above 100? Fasting. Is your fasting insulin in the double digits or higher? I don't think it would be in the trips. Double is probably 10 or up, okay? Your HOMA-IR, you're going to calculate. Just Google it or ChatGPT how to do that. You put in your glucose and your fasting insulin, and then you divide it by a number, depending on if you're doing American or international units. And then adiponectin. Because adiponectin is expensive, I would say I think you can get everything you need from a lipid panel, which is $10 online. Glucose is from a comprehensive metabolic panel, which is $10. Fasting insulin is a $14 test. That's the 3 you would need to get, I think, to really tell you what's going on. And then from there, visceral fat. Get a DEXA scan. Get your actual amount of visceral fat. And if it's above 2 pounds, that's not good. You want it to be, honestly, 1 pound or less, but you'll get there. You'll get there. We've been able to take my husband from 9 pounds of visceral fat to 3.95 pounds in July. So that took us 10 months to get there. Still have some progress to make, but he's doing a lot better, right? Sorry, I'm thirsty. Okay, so we know what lipotoxicity is. We know how you get it, and we know what biomarkers to check. So what do you do if you are lipotoxic? Well, it's not a death sentence. It's not hard to solve. It'll just take some patience and some consistency. And there's specific things to do. The very first thing is nutrition. So Dr. Nadir Ali talks about how in his clinic, when he has lipotoxic patients, he puts them on a high protein, moderate to low fat, and low carb. And if you're watching this, you're most likely doing carnivore or keto or something, so you're already low carb. So what does he mean by low fat? It doesn't mean no fat. It means you're eating the meat, you're eating the fat that's on your meat, okay? He gave a hypothetical person that would eat like 200 grams of protein, 75 grams of fat, and 50 grams of carbohydrates. So that's totally doable, I think. 200 grams of protein is a lot. So kind of modify that to your, personal eating. I would say the easiest way to do this is just don't add butter to everything. Don't eat sticks of butter. Don't make bulletproof coffee and put heavy cream and butter and all this fat into your coffee. Cut the added fat. That's the first step. I would also cut the dairy. I mean, if you're doing like low-fat dairy, okay, but I just think cutting the dairy, it's low-hanging fruit. It's super easy. And then maybe one meal per day. Make the meat a leaner cut of meat. So if you're eating a ribeye, eat some sirloin or a filet mignon. If you're eating chicken thighs, bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs, eat a chicken breast instead. And you're lowering the fat, so you do need to raise the protein, okay? Again, this is temporary. All this is going to allow you to do is allow your body to tap into its own fat stores. If you have 30, 50, 100, 200 pounds or more fat on your body, you do not need to be eating extra dietary fat. It's counterintuitive. You want your body to tap into that fat store first. You know, it's a good thing that we can store fat. It's a survival mechanism. Our bodies are designed to store fat because back in the day, we didn't have grocery stores. We didn't have refrigerators. We didn't have all of these ways to preserve food. We hunted and gathered what we could eat, and that was it. We also moved around a lot more, right? But it's a good thing that we can store all this extra fat. But when it gets out of hand, with, you know, standard American diet and our Western lifestyles and sedentary lives and things like that, then it gets to be bad, right? And it can cause a lot of issues. So we want to tap into that fat. We are also built to tap into that fat when needed. So that's the number one thing right there. Nutrition, lower the fat, raise the protein. If you're eating carbohydrates, keep it to 50 grams total per day. I would like you to work that down to 20 grams total per day, not net. Total carbs. This doesn't have to be done overnight. Just start by not adding extra butter, cutting out the fatty coffee, and then maybe start switching meals. For some people, you don't have to do all of that. Just cutting the butter could be helpful, you know? And I'm not saying you have to do this forever. As you start to lose weight, as you get down to your goal weight, where you want to be, you're going to have to start increasing the fat intake because you won't have it on your body, right? So you need the fat for energy at that point. But when you have lots of fat on your body, tap into it. That's what we want to do. So the next step is exercise. So Dr. Nadir Ali likes to do zone 2 cardio. So zone 2 cardio is like barely breaking a sweat. So you get your max heart rate, which is 220 minus your age. So let's say a person is 40 years old. So 220 minus 40 is 180. So in order to be in zone 2, you need to be at 65% to 75% of your max heart rate. So for this hypothetical person, we're going to take 180 and multiply it by 0.65 to get that bottom bracket, the starting point of their zone 2, which is, I think, 117. And then we're going to take 180 and multiply it by 0.75 for the top end of the bracket there, and that's 135 beats per minute. So when this person, 40 years old, is between the heart rate of 117 and 135, they're in zone 2. Zone 2 is fat burning zone. And Dr. Ali thinks you should hang out there for like an hour a day, which is a lot. I recognize that. But I will say that my husband, again, we didn't know that he had lipotoxicity when we did our experiment, but he was working out a lot in October and November. Was that it? No, it was September and October of 2024. And when he lost visceral fat a lot faster and his biomarkers improved more quickly. I think he was working out like 5 days a week. Zone 2 cardio and some strength training, unintentionally doing that. And the results spoke for themselves. I have the data in that one video, the very first video I made about the lipotoxicity. I'll link all of those videos in the description. Let's write this down. Okay, cool. So zone 2 cardio, if you're sedentary, start with 1 day a week, where you do 30 minutes or something like that. Work your way up. Don't hurt yourself. If you can handle it, try for 3 days per week. And then you also want to throw in some strength training. Strength training is essential for every single human being on the planet, regardless of if you're lipotoxic or not. Your whole mission in life should be to build as much muscle as possible as you get older. Muscle is a repository. It's like a bank for glucose. So if you have more muscle, you can clear more glucose from your blood. If you have more muscle, you are more metabolically healthy. If you have more muscle, it protects you from falls as you get older. And having a really good amount of muscle on your body as you get into your elder years is really predictive of optimal metabolic health. If you strength train, it's also really good for your bones. So as you go into your elder years with really strong bones and really good muscle, man, you're going to be set. We're all going to die, right? But like, at least you can have a healthy last few decades instead of living chronically ill. So that's the things you would want to do for exercise. Work your way up to it, but strength training and zone 2 cardio are the recommendations that Dr. Nadir Ali uses in his practice. And it was very effective and still is very effective for my husband. So next and last is fasting. So my husband would do 10 to 14 day water fasts once a month. And then he would sprinkle in shorter, like, 2 to 4 day fasts as needed throughout the month. And that was how he had lost that's how he was able to lose his weight. It's always been really effective for him. Goran used to be over 400 pounds before we met. In 2015 or 2016, he read a book from Dr. Jason Fung and from, it was Obesity Code and Wheat Belly, Dr. William Davis, I think. And those books inspired him to lose 130 pounds using keto and water fasting. So he comes from a background of like being really into the fasting. So when we had this lipotoxicity thing happening that we didn't know it was lipotoxicity, he was just like, I'm just going to go back to what I know works for me. And that's fasting and long fasts and carnivore. So that's what he did. And it worked really, really well. So Dr. Nadir Ali would love for you to do longer fasts, but you can also just do shorter fasts. I know that can be really, really intimidating to do at first. So I would say start with intermittent fasting, having a limited feeding window, or maybe even doing OMAD. And then from there, try for a 24-hour water fast, 48, 36, 48, 72, things like that. The more fasting you can do, the faster you can, in addition to the nutrition and the exercise, the faster you can resolve the lipotoxicity. But for him, he used to have a person in his practice that would monitor the fasting of patients. But then they had transitioned to another job, so he didn't have anybody there to do that anymore. So then I think within his practice, he's doing 1 to 2 day fasts with people right now. So don't feel like you have to be like my husband and do a 10 to 14 day water fast right out the gate. You really need to practice that. He's been doing it since 2015. So 10 years of practice. And he did not start there. He started with intermittent fasting and then 24, 36, 48, whatever. If you could do intermittent fasting every day and maybe 1 24-hour water fast per week, that could be really, really helpful. And then work your way up from there. Dr. Boz has a really great technique for determining when or if you should eat food for that day, if you're insulin resistant. And that is taking your glucose and your ketones right when you wake up in the morning. If your glucose is above 100, in US terms, I think it's a 5-point. I have all these conversions in my book. I just don't have them in my brain right now. But they are all in my book. Above 100 milligrams per deciliter, then you should probably wait to eat until your glucose is in the double digits, so 99 or less. And if your ketones in the morning are not 0.5 millimoles per liter or higher, then you need to wait until they are. If they are below that, you could probably hold off on eating. That's a really, really good way to determine if you need to fast or not. My husband kind of goes off feeling, like he kind of knows when he needs to fast. But also we both wear continuous glucose monitors all the time. So for him, even now, it's been a year now that we've been working on this. If he eats for too many days in a row, his glucose will start inching up. He has this interesting curve where it's okay overnight, and then in the morning it starts to go up and it has a peak around midday of like 130, 140. This is no carbs, guys. This is the visceral fat talking. And then it goes down like this. So when he starts to see that, he knows it's time for a fast. And then his glucose evens out to like 80, 85. It's really interesting. I say this in my COSI speech and in that video where I talk about that data, that I think there's going to be a switch flip moment with him, where the visceral fat will get down to a certain level and we will start to see a lot of things improving pretty quickly. I feel like we're starting to get there. His HSCRP, which is a systemic inflammation marker, was always above a 3. I think we saw it as high as 45 once. It was insane. We finally got it down under 1 in June, I think. And in July, it was at like a 1.17, which I will take. I will take that over I will take that over a high one any day. So yeah, that is the 3-part fix for lipotoxicity. Number 1, nutrition. Lower the fat, raise the protein. If you're eating carbs, keep them as low as possible. Next, exercise. Zone 2 cardio as often as you can, but at least 3 days per week, up to 7 if you can, and strength training. Now, when I'm saying 7 days a week of zone 2 cardio, I'm not talking about like chronic cardio, over exercising or things like that. Zone 2 cardio, you are barely breaking a sweat. It's really, really, really easy to do. At least I feel like it is. I think if you're sedentary, it's going to take a little bit to work up to it, but like you can get into zone 2 really, really easily. So we're not talking about like doing hours and hours of high intensity cardio. You don't want to do that. And then the third is fasting. Incorporating as much fasting as you can, being safe with it, and working your way up. That's the 3-part trifecta fix for lipotoxicity. So when you are taking care of this, say you're like, okay, I am lipotoxic. I got my baseline blood work and it is all indicating to me that I'm lipotoxic. I got the visceral fat reading from the DEXA and I've got like 5 pounds of visceral fat. I'm not losing weight on carnivore. You know you have lipotoxicity. Start to implement these things, and then 3 months from the beginning of implementing it, go and do more blood work and get another DEXA scan so you can measure your progress. Your goal is to improve all of your biomarkers and to get that visceral fat under control. And at that point, then your lipotoxicity will be resolved. And I would say you need to keep an eye on it for probably another year as you up the fat or raise the carbs or whatever you want to do. And just make sure it's remaining that way. So eventually, if you wanted your blood work to be awesome and perfect, you would want your triglycerides to be under 100. You want your HDL to be above a 50. And you would want your triglyceride to HDL ratio to be below a 2, ideally below a 1. That would be like, whoa, these are just, goalposts to aspire to. You would want your glucose, your fasting glucose, to be a 95 or less. You would want your fasting insulin to be in the single digits, ideally between 2 and 6. And you want that HOMA-IR to be below a 1.3. Adiponectin, if you are testing that, for women, you want that to be above a 20. For men, you want it to be above a 15. That means that your fat cells are happy and they are doing what they're supposed to be doing and they are not stuffed anymore. And then when you look at your visceral fat, you really want that to be moving down. So if you have 5 pounds, 4.5 pounds, 4 pounds, whatever, you just want to keep seeing that go down every single time you measure your DEXA scan. Eventual goal, under 2 pounds of visceral fat. If you want to be at optimal metabolic health, under 1 pound. And there are some people in this space that think you should have 0.5 pound or less. So those are the goalposts. Now, all of this stuff that we just talked about, it's a lot of information. I'm going to get over to your questions here in a minute. If you have questions, please leave them in the comment section. I will be getting to those in a second. So I have all of this stuff laid out in my latest lipotoxicity video. I'll put a link to it. In that video, I will tell you how you can get a lipotoxicity cheat sheet completely for free. All you have to do, I'll just tell you how to do it right now. If you head over to my Instagram page, follow me over there, and then send me a message requesting the lipotoxicity cheat sheet. and I will send it right over to you. It's 2 pages. It lays out everything we just talked about, what lipotoxicity is, how you get it, what you need to test in order to see if you have it. And then it lays out the solution: nutrition, exercise, fasting. And then it talks about, okay, here's your goalpost. Here's what you're aiming for. Here's how you know that lipotoxicity has resolved. And then you just retest every 3 months until you get there. The speed at which the lipotoxicity resolves just depends on how hard you go on this stuff, you know, how much you lower the fat, how much zone 2 cardio and strength training you do, how much fasting you do. So it's going to be different for everyone. You can take this nice and slow. You can do it super fast. It's all depending on you, what you're able to do consistently, because the consistency is the most important part. Don't try to go into this and be like, I'm going to go gung ho and blah, and then after a month you're burnt out. You know, slow and steady wins the race. So we've been doing this with my husband for a year. He has lost, let's say, 270. Today he was 211 pounds, and his visceral fat is down 5 pounds. We're going to do another DEXA scan in the beginning of September when we get back from our Labor Day trip. And I bet you it's probably going to be closer to 3 pounds now. And yeah, takes some time, but it is doable. It is 100% doable. You know, I dove into this topic because of my husband. We were so confused. And I knew that once we figured it out, that I had to share it with you guys, because I get questions about this all the time. And now that I've released 4 lipotoxicity videos, I realize how much more prevalent it is. I thought it was just a small minority. It's a lot more people than I thought. A lot. So I am happy that we figured it out for my husband. I'm happy that his health is improving. I'd like him to stick around for as long as humanly possible, especially because we have little tiny twins that are going to be 4 in November. And we're thinking about having another. So it's very personal for me, close to my heart, but I'm happy that we have figured it out and we are able to share this with you. So don't be discouraged if this is happening or something similar. If you figure this out and you're like, oh crap, I'm lipotoxic, watch those videos. There is a blueprint for healing. And I will say that I still don't think it's the majority of people that are experiencing this, but after talking to a lot of experts in this, if you have a lot of extra weight to lose, let's say all your numbers are good, but you aren't losing weight on carnivore, just try lowering the fat a little bit. Just try it for like a month and allow your body to tap into those fat stores. It's just a highly effective way to lose the extra weight. And when you get down to your maintenance weight, you will be able to eat more fat. Like I think Kelly Hogan has been doing a lot of great content on her channel about the individualization of the carnivore diet for each person. Some people do really, really well on high fat. Some people do really, really well on high protein. And depending on where you're at in your journey, if you're trying to heal from some metabolic health issues, if you have a lot of weight to lose, like where you're coming from is going to influence and inform how much of each macro you should eat. So carnivore is not a one size fits all. Not everybody should just be adding butter to everything. Some people will be able to do that and have a lot of success, but a lot of people will not. And that's okay. We're all different, right? And we're all coming to this from different places. So just want to make that point. I'm going to move into the questions now. If you guys have any questions, we're going to hang out for another 15 minutes. I got to go home at 5 because I got to finish my book edits and eat some dinner and hang out with my babies. But let's get these questions answered. Oh, man. All right. Sup, fam? Hey, what's up? Kathy, can lipotoxicity contribute to IBS problems? Dr. Ali does not specifically mention that as one of the symptoms, but IBS problems tend to root cause from a leaky gut. So perhaps that could be something to look into if you're dealing with IBS, is looking at leaky gut, healing that. Ellie, do you think lipotoxicity could have some info related to lipedema? I'm still learning about this. Yeah. So for lipedema, I've just talked to Siobhan Huggins. She's co-owner of Own Your Labs, and she's doing a lot of really interesting research on lipedema. She's also suffering from it. And then we have a few other people in the space. Linda, the carnitarian, she has been dealing with lipedema. And everybody that I've talked to with lipedema, for all of you out there that don't know what it is just a horrible condition where you have very painful fat deposits on your extremities. And they, like, you start the day off okay, but then by the end of the day, it's very, very painful. Your legs can kind of look like tree trunks. It can also affect your arms. It's devastating. And I know that people suffering from it that are doing carnivore do better on a high protein version of carnivore. The higher fat carnivore, if you're suffering from lipedema, is not good. At least from the people that I've talked to, 3 separate people following carnivore that have lipedema. They keep it under control with a higher protein version of carnivore. So definitely look at the carnitarian and check that out. All right, Jeanette, I've loved these videos. I've struggled with high-fat carnivore, now back to extended fasts and have lowered my fat. I just started, so no results yet. Awesome. Keep me posted. Let me know how it goes. If you just started, yeah, give it some time. And if you can, you're doing the fasting, you're doing the lowering the fat, great. Try to throw in some of that zone 2 cardio as well if you can, but just take it slow. I love this, Megan. My fat is fat. Geez, LOL. I know, right? Okay. Still having high triglycerides and low HDL, besides not losing weight, made me start to wonder if something else is wrong. Now I have things to work with. Yes. Yeah. Especially if you've already been doing low carb and your triglycerides are still elevated. That's a really, really good clue that you have extra fat in your bloodstream. If you were putting that fat into the fat cells where it belongs, your triglycerides would go down. And a lot of people going on low carb, they see those improvements, like my trigs improve, my HDL is higher, I'm losing weight, blah, but that doesn't happen for everybody. And that's just, got to get that in line and then everything starts to work as it should. All right, Ellie, I don't have a large stomach at all. It's all in my legs and butt. My waist to hip ratio is like a 20 in difference. Yeah, so with lipedema, it's all in the legs and or the arms. And it's like a stark difference. Now, I didn't know what it was a few years ago, but now I know, and I can spot it on a person from a mile away. It's very distinctive, very distinctive. And the funny thing is it wasn't recognized even as an actual condition by doctors until just a few years ago. They just thought people were crazy. Lovely. Medical gaslighting. You could still be skinny fat, which is a thing I learned about when I started fasting a few years ago. Oh, 100%. Yes, skinny fat is a thing, and that's related to your personal fat threshold. So everybody has a different personal fat threshold. If yours is very, very low, you could be very thin, but so sick. You could have type 2 diabetes and all these other issues if you have a low personal fat threshold. That's why sometimes you'll see like a skinny woman, she looks super fit, but she's got, A1C of a 13, fasting glucose in the 130s, her fasting insulin is like 30, that can happen. And there can also be, on the flip, somebody who is obese, whose numbers are beautiful. They haven't met their personal fat threshold. Metabolically, they are okay, but they are obese. That does happen. So we can't just judge a book by its cover. All right. I fasted before carnivore, read everything from Fung and his team, lost 20, but my blood sugar was still bad, started carnivore, couldn't fast. Now back to where my body is wanting it. Yeah, I think that's good to listen to your body for sure. The blood sugar can be stubborn. So my husband still has some elevated blood sugar if he eats too many days in a row. It's a thing. It takes a really long time. And I think that's related to the visceral fat. I really do. The visceral fat in your body is so, is it insulinogenic? I can't think right now. It's 5 p.m. It drives higher insulin. If you have, it's kind of like a feedback loop. If you have a lot of visceral fat, it leads to more visceral fat accumulation until you get it under control. So again, switch flip moment. I think once we get my husband under 2 pounds, I think his glucose will start to stabilize a lot more, but that does take some time. That's why the consistent fasting is so important. Jeanette does 2 24s and a 36 to 48 per week for best results. So working on my fasting muscles again. It is a muscle. Fasting is a skill, and you do have to exercise that. How soon after the lean meat changes did your husband start to notice visceral fat shrinking? Any changes in energy? So my husband never did the lean meat, at least not for the 8 months before we knew it was lipotoxicity. All he did was the fasting and the exercise. We've just started implementing leaner meat. He's only 20 pounds away from his goal weight now. He's 211 pounds. He never noticed any changes in energy ever because he still had so much fat on his body. When you have that much fat on your body, you will not notice a change in energy. You will be burning the fat on your body. Just imagine the fat on your body is the stick of butter that you were eating. You already got tons of sticks of butter on your body. Tap into that first. Now, once he gets down to his goal weight, which is 190, he will most likely need to consume more fat, but we're going to go off biomarkers. And, if his energy goes down, sure, we'll do that too. Thoughts on protein sparing modified days instead of extended fasts for helping with muscle retention still work the same as the fasting for this? Yes. Great question. Protein sparing modified fasts are an excellent way to preserve your lean mass while fasting. I will say we did a DEXA scan once a month with my husband, and he would do those really long water fasts, and we saw no loss in lean mass. None. You're going to get varying opinions on this from some people. I know the Emmerichs are really, really, really against longer fasting just because of the lean muscle loss. But I have not seen that with my husband's data. He stuck between 133 and 135 pounds of lean mass throughout the entire 8-month experiment. And this is with 10 to 14-day water fasts. He was exercising. He was strength training. And we were able to do that. And actually recently, when we just did our recent one, he's been stacking on the muscle lately. He's really been upping the strength training, and his lean mass went up like drastically, and fat mass went down a lot. So yes, protein sparing modified fasts are an excellent way to do that. So if you want to do that, if you're doing competitive powerlifting, yeah, go right ahead. I'm going to do a video here in the next week or two. I did a 14-day sardine fast, which is a protein sparing modified. And then I did a 14-day fat fast using carnivore bars as my fat. And I saw stark differences in how much fat I lost and how much lean mass I lost. Protein sparing modified is awesome. So yeah, do that. Can you have high ApoB but low ApoB but high LDL? So LDL, every single particle of LDL has an ApoB on it. So they typically kind of go hand in hand. But yeah, it can be seen. I honestly just don't even look at ApoB and LDL because my triglycerides are so good. My HDL is so high. It's just not something I worry about. But yeah, that can happen. But typically they kind of go hand in hand. All right. Yes, the physical therapist said that she thought I have lipedema, and yes, very painful. Finally found out why. Just pushing my finger gently into my arm or anywhere causes extreme pain. Yes. Yeah, that's a real thing. Lipedema, that's one way that you would know that you have it. It's very unique fat deposits, and it's painful. Painful. But yes, higher protein carnivore for lipedema. Lowering the fat has helped me move past my stall. Yep. Playing around with your macros. If you're just trying to lose weight, let's say you don't have lipotoxicity, just lowering your fat a little bit is an excellent way to get past a weight loss stall. I actually have a weight loss stall video coming, like the ultimate weight loss stall guide coming out on Sunday. It's like 45 minutes long. I have so many tips for helping you get that scale moving again. I would love to hear more success stories. I didn't realize lipotoxicity existed until the video for it popped up in my feed this week. Thank God. Well, I'm glad that you found it. It's kind of more of a niche topic, go to Dr. Nadir Ali's channel. He has a ton of content around it. Although it's a little bit older, he's a practicing cardiologist in Houston, and he's dealing with patients with this every single day. So he doesn't have a lot of time to create content, but it's very high quality what he has. And then I have the 4 videos on my channel that I'll link in the description of this live stream when we're done. My LDL is crazy high, even after cutting out butter and extra fat. Trigs are high, but equal to HDL. I don't care about LDL at all. All I care about are trigs and HDL. Your LDL cholesterol is going to do lots of things, lots of different things. And if you are, okay, so I have a few experiments on my channel with LDL. I did one where I did really, really high fat and high calorie for 3 days for a standard lipid panel, and my LDL cholesterol went down. I had another time when I did a lot of fasting and my LDL cholesterol went way up. So what happens with LDL, it's just the LDL and the HDL, it's the exact same cholesterol. What's different is the particle that's carrying it. So the LDL particle and the HDL particle. The LDL particle will come out of the liver to deliver triglycerides, fatty acids, glycerols to your cells that need it. And then whatever's left over, your HDL comes, and it's like the garbage man, the recycling comes and picks it all up and brings it back to the liver to be recycled. So if you are, however you're partitioning energy or consuming food is going to influence what's happening with your LDL particles. So it's just not something I worry about. They're there, but the triglycerides are important because that's actual fat in your bloodstream, and you want that to be under 100. So Durand, let me know what your trigs and HDL are, and we can take a look at that. All right. I am so grateful that you're bringing this to light. I've been high fat carnivore, low carb for 18 months, no weight loss. Yep. That's exactly what happened to my husband. We did it for 18 months. We started at the same time. I started 2 weeks earlier than him. I lost about 50 pounds. He lost nothing, sometimes gained, and all of his biomarkers were going down. Just try lowering the fat and all the tips that we talked about, and I think you'll start seeing everything move in the right direction. Kathy, does visceral fat resemble cellulite? No. So visceral fat is going to be inside your body. You're not going to see it. Typically, well, there's clues. So like if you see a male and he has a big pot belly, it's coming out from like here and it's like, that's visceral fat. My husband used to have it was like a shelf. You could tell it was like right here on top of his liver, and now that's flat. So that's a clue, but other than that, you're not going to see it because it's inside of your body. Now I have something to use to hopefully get rid of visceral fat. Yes, fasting and exercise and lower fat are excellent ways to lower visceral fat. 5 pounds in basically a year now for us. Honestly, I think another year we're going to get him down to where I am. I'm at 0.74 pounds of visceral fat. I usually am 1 or less. Question, struggling with hypoglycemia. My glucose is almost always on the lower end. I wear CGM, but I'm overweight. I would like to work with you. I'm not doing carnivore, but I'm open to it. Yeah. You don't have to do carnivore. Carnivore isn't for everybody. So yes, I have coaching hours. I'm actually going to be opening up more coaching hours here today or tomorrow for September, so we can work on stuff. I would say, are you symptomatic? Like you feel like you're low blood sugar? Because sometimes with CGM, they need to be calibrated. I don't know if you're calibrating yours, but if you're having symptoms, then you are. But yeah. There's lots of things that can be dialed in there. All right, trigs just north of 100, HDL below 50 after 10 months of strict carnivore. Okay, I mean, your trigs at 100, awesome. HDL 50, that's great if it's just below 50. My husband, HDL is one of those markers that's been stubborn for him. And sometimes even once you're super, super healthy and all of your other biomarkers are in line, that's one that doesn't move. There's some theories out there that some people just have low HDL. I don't know enough about that to know, but I would say my most important factor is the triglycerides, 100 or less. If you're like 115, awesome. You're getting there. It just takes time. I think that's another one of those switch flips. I think my husband, the highest we've gotten his HDL is 38. So I think once that visceral fat keeps going down, I think that's going to go up. That's my theory. I will definitely keep you posted. Brody, I want high LDL. Yeah, me too. LDL is not bad. You're the best. Thanks for answering and all the awesome info you put out. Lowered fat after getting blood work and realized lipotoxicity is likely cause plus protein sparing modified 2 days per week. Feeling so much better. Good. I'm glad you're feeling better. And I'm glad that these videos have been helpful for you. Because that's why I make them. I want to make sure as many people can get healthy as possible. Joanne is watching from Canada. Hello, how are you doing? This is basically what Dr. Berry says. Milk is to make you grow. Yes, yeah, dairy is to make baby animals grow. So it's delicious, but I just don't include as much as possible. Thank you so much. Yes, symptomatic. I'm using Dexcom Stelo. Okay, so I also use the Stelo. I have found it to be wildly inaccurate. So we calibrate it through the NutriSense app. There's a tab in there where you can calibrate it. Mine is always like 20 points off. But if you're having symptoms, you know what's happening. So that's the most important thing. CGM, you know, is really good for seeing patterns. So yeah, there are definitely ways you can get that under control. Is there any connection to lipotoxicity and lipedema? That's a great question. I do not know the answer to that. There could be. There could be. There is still a lot of research trying to find the mechanism behind like why lipedema happens for some people and not for others. That question is still not known. So there could be, but we don't know. I do have some interviews with some people that are lipedema experts coming up in the coming months. So be sure to stay tuned for that because that's something that we need to stay in front of. All right, I'm going to stay on for another 5 minutes, so get your questions in, okay? Thoughts on dairy with Hashimoto's, just raw cheese and Greek yogurt, tolerate it well with no negative feedback. I think you need to go with how you feel. There are opinions that raw dairy is going to be less inflammatory than regular. I'm actually doing a raw dairy experiment in September because I also have Hashimoto's. I cannot do dairy. Heavy cream, I can do butter. I cannot do heavy cream. I can do a little bit of cheese, but if I do too much, oof, I feel so gross the next day. And I think a lot of that is related to leaky gut. Hashimoto's, any autoimmune condition is a leaky gut issue. So I've really been dialing in on like clearing my detoxification pathways, my liver, and all that kind of stuff, and really dialing in leaky gut stuff because I love dairy. I want to eat cheese every day of my life, but I can't. So if you're feeling good, if you can tolerate it, if you're keeping an eye on your what are those called? Antibodies. Thank you, my brain. To your antibodies, and they're still nice and low. Awesome. Some people can do it. I know I have some friends that are Hashimoto and they do just fine with dairy. I am a mess. So yeah. So being a protein in dairy is goat cheese bad. A lot of people tolerate goat cheese a lot better. Goat, sheep, other than cow. So if it works for you, awesome. But yeah, some people it's okay. I have not tried it. I have not tried because I can't lose a day, you know, with that. Thank you. Yes. So Nisha, Hashimoto is using the proper human diet. Yeah. So sure. Yeah. I 100% believe her. She's thriving. She does more of a ketovore. And I'm sure there's other things that she's dialed in. I'm definitely going to be trying to get her on the podcast so we can dive into exactly what she did. But the carnivore diet has not been sufficient. That has not been enough for me to heal my Hashimoto's. And my Hashimoto's came on at month 4 of carnivore. I do not think it's caused by carnivore. I think it was due to a plethora of factors, including my twin pregnancy, my age, I think environmental toxins, the fact that I was a drug addict and an alcoholic, for, my teens and 20s. I've been very hard on my body. I used to smoke 2 packs a day of cigarettes when I was a teenager. I was insane. There's a lot of things that go into autoimmune, and I really do think the leaky gut is a big issue. So what I think Nurse Nisha did was healed her leaky gut and got all of that under control. So yeah, for some people that is enough. Let's see here. Duran, thank you. I started losing visceral fat and weight again after learning about lipotoxicity from your interviews. That's awesome. That is great. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. Keep it up. Antibodies high, but no classic low thyroid symptoms. Confusing. Yeah. Hashimoto's sucks. I'm so sick of it. Yeah. If you're feeling okay, keep doing what you're doing. Back in the day, before all the blood testing was kind of the gold standard for, treating anything, doctors would treat thyroid conditions based on how you felt, instead of being like, oh, you're just tired because you have kids, or oh, blah. Like they would listen to you. But that's just not how it's done nowadays, unless you're going to a functional medicine practitioner, or, somebody in that space. So I was insane as a teenager too, just when I got my Hashimoto's. Yeah, living that fast life. It's not good for you. I've been clean for 14 years. I barely drink anymore. I quit smoking years ago. I'm the healthiest I've ever been, but I feel like I'm still dealing with the consequences of my earlier choices. Okay. I think we are going to call it. Thank you guys for coming and watching all of this and for sharing your stories with me. I'm so happy that my husband's experience has been able to help some of you guys. I'm going to be going on a vacation here in the next few days and be back in the beginning of September. And now that I have this office space, I'm going to be doing a lot more live streams. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to make sure I put all those links in the description. If you want the lipotoxicity cheat sheet, head over to my Instagram. Hold on, I've got it here. It's at Mama Midich up there at the top. And follow me over there and send me a message requesting the lipotoxicity cheat sheet, and I'll get that right over to you. And I will link all of those videos in the description. And I hope this was helpful. So please let me know if you have any comments. If you're watching this later, like on the replay, leave your comments. I'm very receptive to my comment section. And yeah, Bree, very much so looking forward to working with you as well. Anybody out there that wants to do some coaching, I have coaching hours. We can go over blood work. I'm not a doctor, so I can't give you medical advice, but I can steer you in the right direction with blood work, like what ranges to go for, dialing in your carnivore diet, lipotoxicity stuff, really anything that you need help with, I can help you with. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to go home and eat dinner. I am starving. I'm going to have some ground beef with some Primal Kitchen Ranch on it. It's going to be glorious. Thank you guys. Love you all. And I will see you again very soon. All right. Bye-bye.